Very good. Thank you. While Samer takes his seat, I'd like to welcome all of you. And I want to thank first our partner, Visit Sarajevo, for organizing this event. We had a good meeting earlier this morning, Visit Sarajevo, and our friends and colleagues from Intrepid traveled, talking about what the destination is doing in terms of international promotion and otherwise. Sarajevo has been quite active, actually, in international promotion. They were recently in Madrid at Fitur. They were at the Dubai Expo, and they're quite engaged even in the region. You see them often in Belgrade and Zagreb and otherwise. And it's an interesting partnership that's emerging between us and Visit Sarajevo, just like the other tourist boards, but particularly with Visit Sarajevo, and also looking at expanding the international travel agent network that is selling the destination and otherwise. But today we're talking about how do we sell experiences and how do we improve them and enhance their quality so that companies that are very fussy, like Intrepid, would like these experiences and promote them. And maybe that's I don't know if that's an industry term, but
Yes, that's
yeah,
official.
it is an industry term. Okay, what does it take for a picky? We call it the discerning traveler. That do not want the ordinary experience, but they want something different, something special, something you don't always find. And the clients that therefore that we're able to attract um, would be willing to spend more, and that's exactly what we need for this destination to succeed. Bosnia and Herzegovina was one of the fastest growing destinations worldwide before the pandemic, 12% a year, which was, I think it was the third largest in the world. But more important than numbers is the yield. How much are we deriving from the visitors? And the more they spend, the more the businesses benefit, and of course employees benefit. But how do you make them spend more? We need to give them more options, more things to spend on, but the quality needs to be higher so that we are able to derive even more money. I know that, for example, a number of wineries in Herzegovina are selling wine experience for €5. When you go to other countries and you pay 20 and 30 euros, maybe more even. Uh, it could be simply a pricing problem that the product deserves more, or it could be that there's a need to enhance the tourism experience so you could charge more, or it could be a combination of both. Now, today's event is quite practical. Many of you are already selling tours. Adnan is with us here today, and I know you're dealing with customers from all over the world. And Adnan is your host, actually, taking you on a Jeep safari or a safari in the town. But with all of you, that you don't have to be a tour operator. Yesterday, they were at a household, and the lady there, Marsiha, she made pie in front of them, and so they got to learn about the pie and about the dough and about how her mother taught her what to do and how. And it's quite interesting. I mean, wouldn't that be interesting for your clients? Yes. Exactly. And that beats going to a restaurant, because not only you get something different, but you also get to experience the warmth of people and go into their home and hearing their stories. And that's exactly what we're looking for, something different. So what is different? What is the market looking for? What sort of quality standards should we be providing? All of these are the practical considerations that a tour operator like Intrepid is going to be shared with us today. Now, Intrepid is one of the best tour operators out there. They're almost in all continents. And in the different countries, they work with local tour operators. So you do not have that problem of kind of the money being spent abroad and you just send the tourist in. Because a local tour operator, you're their partner because you know who's there. At the same time, you have the supplier. So they're looking for the suppliers, the people who create the experience. They're looking for the tour operators as well. And I think all of us are going to benefit from this. I'm not going to make introductions of all of you because I know I will shortchange how great you are. But I would like to ask you to introduce yourself, introduce the company, and you don't have to be shy about how great you are because you are. So, Chris, would you want to take it away from here?
Sure.
Or anybody else?
Well, we can start with them.
Yeah. All right. So as far as introduction goes, my name is Chris. I'm working with Intrepid for approximately 15 years now. I came over from the IT industry into tourism. Started working as a tour leader in Europe. So basically ran tours, I think, in almost every country in Europe for a couple of years. Moved over to Morocco into an operational role, managing Morocco and Europe from there for 5 or 6 years. Then a little bit over to Iceland, a little bit to Latvia, and then finally ended up now currently in Croatia, where I'm the general manager for Intrepid DMC in Europe.
Okay. Okay. Hi. I'm Sonia. I'm from Croatia. We are actually we have our office in Zagreb, Intrepid DMC, where Chris is our general manager. I'm working. I started like in 2011, same as a group leader. So I was guiding trips around Europe. And then later on, I was part of operations team. Now I'm part of contracting team, and I'm in charge of contracting for this region, so for South and Eastern Europe. So pretty much dealing with different suppliers from hotels, transportations, local guides, all that, whatever we want to include in our trips. I'm the contact for that, let's say. Yeah, what is? He's showing something. Okay. And that's pretty much it from me. Tom?
Good morning, everyone. So my name is Tom Smith, as you can see. So my role is as the Regional General Manager for Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. I've been with the company for about 6.5 years. So before this role, I was the General Manager of our DMC business in Peru, where we looked after Brazil, Argentina, and Chile. Before Intrepid, I was also in the tourism sector in Australia and in Morocco. And yeah, I think that's enough for me.
Good morning. I'm Ance. I'm also based in Zagreb, but originally from Latvia. Been with Intrepid for almost 15 years, and the same as Chris and Sonia, work on the operational side of business of Intrepid in Europe, Iceland, and Russia. I'll look after the contracting team for the region. We develop products, look for new opportunities, price the packages that goes to Intrepid, but we also work with other external partners, not only Intrepid, as we are in DMC, and we provide DMC services to some other partners, not only Intrepid. So that's about it. We look forward to telling you a bit more about who we are as a company and what we look for in a product. And then hopefully you'll have some questions, and maybe we can also then catch up after the workshop to learn more of what you do and if there's any opportunities. Thank you.
And we're going to hear some great stuff from them. But the most important would be, I think, the discussion. I think the team is reserving enough time for discussion, for what questions you might have, and you can get as practical and technical and detailed as you want. So let me just turn it over to you, and you can take it away from here.
Great. Hi again. What we learned from the workshop that we did in Banja Luka on Monday was there were some parts of it that we kind of skipped through a little bit to try and give more focus to different parts of the presentation. So I'm actually not going to talk through all of it, but we will be sending this across to anyone afterwards that wants kind of more background information.
Pause a second. We have 4 seats here in the front. If people in the back would like to come over here, especially those behind the camera.
Okay. Okay, just to start off, I'm assuming most of you may not have come across Intrepid Travel before. So we are an Australian business originally. So headquarters is in Melbourne, Australia. We are the world's largest adventure travel company. And so I guess that's probably probably one of the, I guess, the things which people are a little confused about. They hear adventure travel, and even our customers or prospective customers think adventure travel, and they think active, they think hiking, they think rafting, and we do that. But actually, we mean kind of adventure in multiple senses. So it could be, cultural adventure, it could be gastronomic adventure. And actually what we are noticing, and this ties in exactly with what Ibrahim was saying with regards to the yield of each customer, is our customers want to feel like they're on an adventure. They want to experience things that they never thought they would. But more and more we're seeing that customers are actually not wanting to make any sacrifices in terms of comfort or quality to have those unique experiences. And so we can talk to that a little bit more later on. Again, there's a few things here which you can see on there, but just one that I wanted to highlight, and this, I guess, is where it's kind of most relevant to you guys, is that our purpose is to inspire, create, share, and lead the best travel experiences ever for both people and the planet. And so we will talk during this presentation with regards to responsible travel, with regards to sustainability. They are really important aspects of how we conduct our business, and also how we encourage our customers to travel. And so I think it's something that, we all have a responsibility. We all have a role to play in trying to minimize our impact on the planet especially, and to try and encourage and respect cultures and traditions that we visit. So we'll definitely talk a lot more about that later on. As you can see, we're a global company now. So headquarters is still in Melbourne, Australia. But we have our biggest 3 source markets. So where our customers book from is Australia, the United States, and UK. But then, Europe is a large market for us. Obviously, other English-speaking markets are, because most of what we do is English language group tours. So most of our groups are between 12 and 16 people. We use local guides, but those guides lead their tours in English. So although we do have people, that speak, multiple languages, that the language of the tour is usually in English. Although, as Ansi said, we do also operate for non-Intrepid group brands, and so we have operated tours in other languages for some of those clients. Final thing I just want to mention on this slide is that, as you can see, we have 24 different DMCs around the world. So these 3 guys all work in our Europe team, in our Europe DMC. But actually, the first DMC was set up in 2005 in Vietnam. And so what we have learned over, 17 years? That's 17 years worth of experience that we've been able to bring different, experiences into our DMCs, both operational, but also, purchasing, contracting, sales, and other areas. So I think in that respect, we've certainly, got a pretty good global footprint and global coverage. You can see that actually we started way back in the late 80s, so we've just been going just over 30 years. And I think probably as we go through it, you'll learn a little bit more about, what we've done, the foundation, and obviously, how we have become recognized as a leading provider of experiential travel. And obviously that's kind of the focus of this workshop. So we're probably going to skip through some things a little quicker, so that we can focus more on trying to give you guys guidance and trying to work with you on how we can develop better quality and more experiential products here in Bosnia. Because from what we've seen so far, you guys live in an amazing country. There's so much to do. We can't even fit everything in. We're going to bed absolutely shattered at the end of every night, trying to do as much as we can, meet as many people as we can, eat as much as we can, drink rakia. And, we've had the pleasure of meeting already so many amazing people that we can definitely imagine fitting into our tours and that our customers would love. And so what I'm going to do is hand over to Chris to talk through some of our travel styles and travel options, and then on to Anssi for customer.
If there are any questions in between, just please raise your hand and we'll address them as soon as possible. So the travel options we have are, or what we work with, is small group adventures. So that's up to 12 to 16 passengers on average. That's one segment. The other one is tailor-made or private groups. So we run either trips for FIT clients. Basically, they come to us, they say, we want to go to, I don't know, Bosnia. We want to see this and this and this. We put together a tour for them. Or we work also as white label for a lot of bigger companies out there who sell similar or comparable product to, let's say, Intrepid. And they come to us with ideas about trips. We put them together and run them under their own names. It's another segment. And the last one currently is urban adventures, which is day trips. So those are trips, initially they were aimed just at Intrepid clients at the beginning. But the idea is that clients come to cities like, again, let's say Sarajevo. We have a couple of included things, but let's assume they have more time and they want to spend it more meaningful. So we have customized trips where the local tour leader takes them out and explains, I don't know, let's say a tour of the tunnel or to Vrelo Bosne, or I don't know, bike riding, whatever it is. And it's customized to their needs, but usually it involves a lot more detail and customization than any standard trips you get from TripAdvisor. To go into a bit more specifics, at least on the small group adventures. So we're talking about basics, original, comfort, and premium. So that's for our standard group departures, 12 to 16 passengers. Basic is for the budget conscious, means, so it's usually clients who are either starting out in life, younger generation, not so much money, they want to experience a destination. 18 to, let's say, 30 on average. Accommodation is more basic. It's either 2-star or even hostels in some cases, or even camping if it's more adventure. Transportation is almost always local, means local bus, local transportation, local trains, where we don't take away seats from the community. There is less inclusions, but there is more free time, and the leaders have more knowledge about what they can offer to the clients. So the clients come to our leader and say, I have enough time, I want to do this and this and this. The leader then gives advice what to do. That's basics. Original is our bread and butter. That's what Intrepid started with. It's mid-range, usually 3-star hotels, a mix of private and public transport, again, where it's allowed. There's a little bit more inclusion. So let's say every third day has at least one inclusion, and this can be either a hiking trip, a hiking excursion, or it can be a cooking class, wine tasting, horse riding, bicycle ride, you name it. So it's more middle range. Comfort is almost exclusively private transportation because clients are usually also from the wealthy background. They don't have as much time as other clients, means it's minivans or first class trains, wherever we can get them. More inclusions. There is almost every single day there is an inclusion, again, from wine tasting to cooking. And the expectations are actually higher. And premium is, let's say, something we do mostly on the FIT range. We had about 6 months ago, we had in Iceland a client from the US who is on the top 30 list of the wealthiest people in the world. And basically money wasn't a question. So you can imagine what premium that means. We also have themed, trip themes. So 18 to 29 would fall into the basics category. Active is active trips, usually 7-8 days, where there's a lot of rafting, kayaking, biking included. Adventure cruising, we have small boats, up to 35 people roughly. So it's not the big cruisers you see in Dubrovnik. And the whole structure is pretty much similar as Intrepid, that you have inclusions every day on short excursions. Cycling is becoming more and more popular together with active because people want to spend time outside, especially after COVID. Expeditions, it's trips which are, running for the first time. We had one 2 years ago before the pandemic, which was basically advertised online as we're gonna take you on a trip from China to Mongolia. You don't know the start destination, you don't know the finish destination. It takes 8 days, and the trip sold out in 2 hours. People on the trip said it was one of the best trips ever. But it's that kind of surprises and excitement that people want nowadays, experiences. Explorer is usually, the first trip we run in a destination just to, how to say it nicely, it's unexpected usually when you go with a group of people into a new destinations, and that's why we call it Explorer, because things can go wrong and you can adjust. Family, as it says, children friendly means usually from 5 years of age, lots of kids friendly inclusions. Morocco is very popular, so is Galapagos, but it's mainly aimed at children. Festivals, not so much in Europe, it's mainly India, because they have a festival pretty much every second day. Food, food's always selling very well. We have quite a few trips running, and especially in Italy and in Slovenia, Croatia, and Greece, yes. So it's more focused on food. It doesn't mean, it's a traditional Intrepid trip, but it focuses mainly on food. So a lot of cooking classes, a lot of tastings, degustations, and people usually get away like 3 kilos heavier after a week. Lonely Planet experiences is something signature with Lonely Planet. We work with them already for, I think, the 4th year right now. So we have an Intrepid standard trip with signature Lonely Planet experiences. Polar, we're on every single continent, so we also have a boat up there. Retreats is something that came in now during the pandemic. People wanted to stay in one destination, not travel so much, to be less exposed. So we started designing trips 4 or 5 days in duration, where they stay in a central spot and then do excursions outside. Sailing, also Greece, Croatia, Malaysia, Thailand. It's a similar style to Intrepid, but on a boat. Short breaks, not so much anymore. It was popular a while back, where basically people flew in, let's say from London to Belgrade or even Sarajevo, and stayed for 3 days, and we put together a very short program for them. Tailor-made, we already talked about. It's mainly about clients coming to us. I like this trip. I want to do it myself with my family. I don't want anybody else. We put it together. Urban adventures, the day trips. And another big one for us right now is walking and trekking. Again, out in the nature, and people love to be away from the crowds. And wildlife excursions, mostly safaris in Africa.
Okay, so you'll hear the words responsible and sustainable a little bit, and to be honest, in some cases they are interchangeable. What I want to do for now is just kind of focus on what is responsible travel, at least as far as we see it, and we define it internally. And so for us, responsible travel is about choosing to respect and benefit the local people, the cultures, the economies, and their environment. And so, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's as humans on this planet, we all have a role to play. But what I think Intrepid does is we make it easy for customers to know that they are making a difference when they travel. So, let's be honest, most people probably still, they go on holiday because they want a break, because they want to relax, because they want to experience new things. Now, what we do is make it really easy for them to do all of those things, but not without, but trying to minimize the negative impacts that those holidays can have on cultures, on traditions, on the environment that they visit. And so for us, it's a huge part of what we do. And I think, I'm going to talk through a couple of examples where hopefully you will see, I guess, why we have so much credibility in this space. Because I think nowadays it's fashionable, it's on trend to talk to being green. And so, there's a lot of greenwashing out there. And so I guess the first thing I want to talk to is something called B Corp. B Corp is an external accreditation that basically they investigate. They've investigated us, and actually it took 3 years of us providing information, answering questions, and we're talking everything from, how much do we pay our staff? What is the impact of our offices? Do we use renewable energy? How much paper do we print? The trips that we operate, what percentage of them use public transport already, where we use flights, why do we use those flights, are there any alternatives, right through to, what is our carbon footprint of our business travel, huge amounts of questions. And the first time that we actually certified was in 2018. And at that point, we became the world's largest travel B Corp. Other B Corps, you might recognize the names of Patagonia, as in the clothing company, are probably one of the most well-known B Corps globally. Ben & Jerry's ice cream is another one. It's becoming more popular, it's becoming more recognized because customers are becoming more savvy to the greenwashing. They're seeing it all the time and they want to think, actually, do you actually walk the walk, or are you just telling a good PR story, a good marketing message? So it took a long time, and actually in late 2021, we had to go through the recertification process. And so again, we had to do it all again, all of these questions. And I think I personally, for the first time, was more involved in it last year than I was in 2018. And so, yeah, I really saw the time and the resources that it took to gain that accreditation. And so it for me, really, it made it more useful, more powerful, because it actually allowed us to assess our own business and what are we doing correctly and what are we not doing correctly. And I guess probably the thing we learned most was that there's still so far to go. There's still so much more that we could do. And so I definitely would advise you guys to look into it. I'll be honest, I don't know how many B Corps there are in Bosnia already, and possibly not a lot. For example, when we went through the 2021 recertification last year, I worked more closely with some of the DMCs in my region, and South Africa, we just became the first travel B Corp in South Africa, and so at some point we will use that as a good PR message when we're promoting ourselves in South Africa again. So yeah, I definitely look into it. It's much easier when you're a smaller business. So for some of you that do have smaller businesses, it's much easier to get that when you are smaller. When you have, like you can see there, 32 global offices, it takes months and months and months and a lot of resources. So I definitely think it's worth looking into, as it is going to become more important to actually have some external accreditation rather than just you saying that you're a green business. Sure.
Yeah, so what Tom said, it's not just B Corp. I mean, we're not banging on that one, just for the goodness of it. We love to be the largest travel B Corp. Doesn't mean a lot to you right now. Probably when you Google it, you're going to understand more. But it also goes down the line that what we see in behavior from clients right now, when they go online and they book trips, they actually specifically look for the green labels. Doesn't have to be B Corp, can be anything that's, that proves that you are doing something for the environment, for the community, for gender empowerment. Doesn't matter. As long as it's on the website and you're actually walking the walk, you're doing it. Clients are very happy to spend, at least in our experience, more money on your trip than, let's say, a direct competitor who has a cheaper price but doesn't do anything for the environment or gender empowerment or any other good thing. So that's why it's important for you to keep it in mind.
Yeah, it's a good point, actually. It's gives us a commercial competitive advantage to actually have these things. And when I moved across to the DMC part of the business 3 years ago, I was actually surprised that we operate in some cases for some of our competitors, and we're always a little bit kind of shying away from the fact that we also operate for Intrepid. And actually we had other clients, other companies, other tour operators or travel agencies coming to us and saying, oh no, we know that you also operate for Intrepid, but actually that's useful to us because Intrepid has a strong PR message when it comes to traveling responsibly, and we want to be a part of that. So actually you will gain more clients and customers by having these accreditations. I'm not going to talk to this one too much, just to say, there's a lot of UN Sustainable Development Goals, and we have kind of worked more closely with 8 of those. But again, there's a lot more information on that on the website. Something that, again, we all have a part to play as companies and as individuals, is around trying to limit our impact on climate change to try and keep within that 1.5 degrees C global warming targets, or limit, I should say. It's not a target. And so we, as a business, we have committed to science-based targets. And again, it's a lot of work. There's no denying that. But in the end, especially as tourism providers, we have a huge role to play in that. And so again, we've kind of made a lot of contacts through that, and it's something we are committed to as a business. It's part of our charter as a company that we have committed to that. And then finally, again, I guess this talks back to our credibility as a business. We have had a foundation now for 20 years. During that time, we've raised almost $12 million for different causes and projects around the world. And so for our customers, it's super important, and it's really meaningful as well. If you're in a country and you've had a great time there, and you've also felt like you've really connected with people and helped people in that destination, it's always something that is really meaningful to our customers. And it's, again, something we'll talk to a lot later on in this workshop with regards to working with you guys on hopefully giving some guidance around how we have done things and how you might also be able to consider doing that within your own businesses and organizations.
Okay, so very briefly, we are just gonna go over and tell you who our customer is. So this is more about the persona, the type of the customer we get, instead of demographics, age, and background, because it's hard to. Our customers come from different markets, from different walks of life, different reasons why they choose us, but the main reason is they want to take out the logistics of the trip. They want to go on holiday. They want to keep the logistics to us, and they just want to come and experience. What we have kind of identified as three main things that our customer has in common. Our customer is curious. They come with open minds, open hearts, and they want to learn about the destinations they visit with us, like in depth. Not just go to the main site, take a photo. Okay, I saw Taj Mahal, or I was in Dubrovnik on the walls, whatever. They want to learn about the history, the people, the local life there. The local guide that would take them on a walking tour, let's say in Dubrovnik, they need to share personable stories that our customer wants to hear, and that's the reason why they come with us. They're connected. So this comes together with the curious. They're curious, and in that way, they want to connect with the people in the location. They want to understand the destination. They want to connect to each other when they come on our group trips. That's why they choose to travel in a group. They don't want to experience the place alone. They want to travel with like-minded people so they can share. And they're conscious. This is what Tom was talking about: responsible, sustainable travel, tourism. They care about environment, they care about society, they care about the destination they travel, and they want to leave a good impact. So they choose to travel with us because, once again, this is an easy way for them to be sure that they are traveling in a responsible way. Later in the next steps, next sessions, whatever we call it, Tom is going to mention a little bit more about demographics, but in general, our majority of our customers are female, but we do also get male travelers, of course, and they're like 44 years of age, but as I said, they come from different walks of life. And then depending on the theme, the trip style they choose with us, that also indicates the income level and the background. We are doing pretty good with time, so I think we keep on going. And then after the next session, we take the break, no? I mean, yeah. Okay, so let's talk about those immersive experiences and responsible tourism experiences that we design and that we put in our trips. So our product is sustainable experience-rich travel. What does it mean? We'll talk a little bit about that in detail. But basically what we aim for is we're trying to put in these sustainable experience-rich products in every single itinerary we have. So if we put together an itinerary that goes through the Balkans for 2 weeks, we will aim to put in these CERT, as we call them in short, CERT experiences at least in 2 destinations, so the customer gets the opportunity to experience the destination more in depth. So what are CERTs? CERTs are local interaction. So if you are in a destination, it's all about the local people there. So it can go anywhere from a simple walking tour with a local guide, or it can be a cooking class, like cooking experience like we did yesterday, where the locals in their home or a home-like environment, let's say, provide us the opportunity to interact with them, talk with them, learn more about their way of life, all of this, how their mother taught them the recipe or whatever is the story. So the opportunity, we need to provide the opportunity for our customers to meet the local people, not just our tour leader, not just the bus driver that they see because they need to travel, but other people in the destination so they have the opportunity to learn more. These experiences have to be unique. It's pretty hard, right? I'm just telling you to just make your experience unique. But once again, if you focus on that local part of your experience and try to make your story more personable, for example, that will make it more unique. These experiences are priceless. So of course, let's say you do a walking tour. The highlight of the walking tour, of course, you cover the history of the place you're showing. You stop at the sites, you stop at the monuments, but the highlight of the walking tour might be a spot where you stop and there is an amazing view of the city. And that will be what they won't remember what year the church was built. They will remember the view. As they looked on the church, it was a wonderful view, and then there was a church. They will remember that it was there, but the view will be worth more than the history of the place. So these kind of simple, small things to add in to make the experience more enhanced and more wow, that doesn't necessarily have to cost any money or not a lot of money. If your experience has positive impact on people or planet, talk about it, show it, demonstrate it. So it can be anything from picking up trash as you go on a hike to stopping in this little local artisan workshop as you do your walking tour, anything like that supports the community, supports local people, supports an association, NGO, whatever it is. Think about it, see how you can incorporate it in your offer. And as I said, make a story out of it, because you might be doing something amazing. If you don't talk about it, people won't know. Yes.
Just to add to that, guys, if you don't already have something like that, try and find something, try and add something in, because that also, talks back to what Ibrahim was talking about in terms of you might have a 2-hour, a 2-hour hike or a 2-hour cycle route or something. But if you can turn that from a 2-hour cycle route that also at the end visits an NGO which supports, people with learning disabilities or something that has some link to cycling, or one of your local guides has contacts in somewhere, add it in, because then you're adding to your experience. If you can do a 1-hour cycle, then stop off in a cafe where somebody has a particularly fascinating story to tell. And I guess the other thing is that you probably might not find them that fascinating anymore, but I can guarantee our customers would. And, do an hour, then go to a cafe, then do another hour, then, finish off somewhere where people have the opportunity to feel like they are, making a difference to some people's lives. Again, for our customers, that is exactly what they want, but also for you guys, it allows you to charge more for that experience. It turns it into a 4 or 5 hour experience. And, as we can kind of work with you on that to say, actually, could you add something in, or could you shorten it a little bit? And we're not telling you how to run your products, but we can certainly, we will be willing to work with you guys to make sure that it fits our itinerary and ticks off some more elements of these set boxes.
All right, just to add to what Ance and Tom said, if you haven't gotten the message by now, the point is of telling stories also. I mean, clients love to hear stories. Dates are interesting for the 5 seconds you tell them, but afterwards they forget it. When I took, for example, my clients to Prague, Prague is one of the most interesting cities in the world. Lots of history, lots of dates. At the end of the tour, they knew the basics of the Jewish quarter, about the history of the city, but what they remembered most was that the longest ever ping pong match was held in that city, and it lasted an hour and a half. And they remembered that. They associated with Prague, they associated with the history, but it's those small facts. Nobody's, or most of the people, won't ever remember the dates about which church was built, which date. But small stories like that, they will keep with themselves, and they're going to share it with their partners, friends when they get home, and that's how they then actually promote your destination and your tours. So that's the interesting part. And another very interesting thing is, you can take your clients, especially if they're from the American or English-speaking countries, and you can take them to, to a local hammam with locals. You can take them to have dinner with a local family, completely in their dresses. But if you don't mention at least 3 times to them, that's a local experience, they won't make the connection. They'll think it's interesting, but if you say it's a local experience, they will associate it with, it's not fake. It's basically naturally what people do. Otherwise, it seems fake to them. So that wording is actually very important. Just a small tip.
Yes. Story. It's all about story. Well, as long as the story is not fake. Yes. The story needs to be authentic. And as I guess Chris potentially or Tom, one of us mentioned, for you, it might seem completely normal, natural thing. I mean, everyone eats burek. Like, why do I need to talk about it, right? The person who has come a very long way, never been here before, it is something unique, something special that is worth mentioning. And if you bring in your own personal or the local guide's experience, I don't know, let's say it's a cycling tour and you make sure that your cycling guide talks about his grandma going, like you pass on a cycling tour, a bakery, let's say, and he talks, oh, my grandma always came here and bought bread here every Saturday. That is what your customer will remember. Not where the bakery was, nothing about that, but there was a bakery where my local guide's grandma went there to buy it. So that's the story. And another very important thing when it comes to these kind of experiences, what we call certs, or these can be just, yes, experience rich travel product. It's difficult. I know it's a tongue twister, certs. Your experiences need to be replicable and scalable. So it is amazing that you come up with cooking with your grandma, but can your grandma do this every Saturday at 11? I mean, if she can't, maybe your friend has a grandma and you can split it, right? I mean, it's an example with a grandma. It can be anything. So just make sure that scalable, maybe it's possible for 1 person. Can you do it for 10? Of course, the same experience for 20 won't be the same. So maybe you want to limit, but there has to be like space, plan B. How can I offer it regularly all the time in the same standard? So if you do it once and then next time it's not the same, it won't work. For us as a tour operator, if we decide to take an experience, put it in our travel itinerary, and let's say we have 47 departures coming through Sarajevo during the season, every single departure from these 47 trips has to have the same experience. So maybe the grandma changes, that's fine, but there is the local grandma that talks to you, and that's what we need. And we put it in our marketing material. So if I arrive and I don't get the service that I was promised, I'm not going to be happy. My customer is not going to be happy. So for you, if you're selling something, make sure that it's, that you can deliver it, and every single time the same. It doesn't have to be the same person, but the standard and the service has to be the same. Yes.
Why Ance is talking about this, it's actually important. We had an example actually in Sarajevo, to be honest. where we stayed at a very, very, very nice homestay with older lady and her husband. Beautiful arrangement. She was super friendly, and we decided we're gonna do a cooking class there with them for our clients, in their common room. At the beginning, all fantastic. 12 clients come. She teaches them how to make sarma, or I don't know, filled onions, whatever it is. But then we added more and more groups, and she had to get more and more industrialized, whatever it is. So at the end, we had first at the beginning, we had feedback straight fives. We measured from 1 to 5, like for a whole year, straight fives. The next year it went down to 4.8. The next year 4.5. Afterwards we had to cancel it. And the reason was, she was so overburdened that from talking to every single client and explaining and hands-on experience, she went to take paprika, fill it, put it there, next, and that wasn't an experience anymore. So we had to actually cancel it. That's why it's important that it's scalable and replicable.
Yeah, so that is quite a hard balance to get right, actually. It has to be replicable so that we can say to you, which I'm sure you'd love, hey, we want to bring you, 12 customers 3 times a week for the next 6 months. Of course, that's great from a commercial perspective. Trying to balance that out with still keeping it fun and spontaneous and feeling like it's kind of not an experience that happens 3 times a week for 6 months with 12 passengers. That's a challenge. And I think, you'll realize from this, a lot of my examples will probably be from Peru, because that's where I have the most experience with some of these type of product development conversations. But from Peru, Peru is an example. It actually allowed us to help more people as well. We had a homestead community where we needed, let's say, 10 rooms that customers could stay in, usually from a group of 12 or 16. It was 12 in Peru, actually. Some people have their own rooms, but if there's a couple traveling together, obviously they stay in their own room. And actually, so we needed 10 rooms, but then we started to get, more and more groups. And actually those groups would be kind of on consecutive days. Some cases, they even were the same day. And so actually what we did was we went out to local communities. We tried to work with kind of unofficial, but who was the kind of head community representative, and kind of used our local networks there to try and then find more communities so that it was still authentic. But it also allowed us to support more communities. And I think that's something that kind of by accident, in a way, our customers, are using their dollars, or their dollars are going to be able to support more communities, which again helps us with making it replicable and being able to scale it up to support more customers, but also when it comes to purpose, obviously supporting more communities as well.
You can go to the next slide. Thank you. So why these sustainable experience-rich travel experiences? Why these certs are important for us? We need to make sure that we want to go deeper into the destination. We don't just want to go from point A to point B and that's it. So we want to add more to our itineraries and our trips. We want to create these authentic moments for our customers. It can be a small thing, and it will be the highlight in the end of the trip. A lot of times our customer chooses a particular trip because of the highlight, because they have heard. I have heard about Sarajevo. I want to go to Sarajevo. That's why I want to go to Bosnia. They come here. They spend 3 days in Sarajevo. Amazing, beautiful city. They eat, they drink coffee. It's wonderful. Go on a walking tour. And then they go on a cooking class. And when they leave, they were like, yes, Sarajevo was my highlight because it was a beautiful city. Plus, I was cooking with Zumra. It was so good. So adding on these special things enhances the experience, and that's why customers want to return and travel with us, because they know that they come to us to Sarajevo, they come to Dubrovnik, they come to Iceland, they go to Peru, wherever they go with us, the experiences we will offer them, they won't be the same, but it will be of a similar standard, and it will bring similar view of the destination they visit. Another very important part of what we do is when selecting these experiences we want to put in our product, we look for something that is purpose-led. So this can be anything from environment to social responsibility to equity. It can be local NGO. It can be wildlife conservation project. Anything that we can support that shows the customer, and ideally it's a experience we can visit on the ground. So it's an NGO that does certain work where we can bring our customer to just stop by for a quick visit and show them, like, look, we work with these women that are doing weaving, and when they finish their product, they sell it in the market. The money that comes, they goes to support certain local community projects or whatever it is. Customers, Tom already mentioned, customers like to see their dollar making a difference to the people that they have directly interacted with. So if you have an opportunity to cooperate with someone, or it can be an organization, it can be, NGO, do it. First of all, it's good practice. Second of all, it will help you to market your product better.
Just want to, we actually got a question the other day in Banja Luka, and I thought it was a good one to kind of bring up, maybe before it comes to another question, was just around, obviously this part of the world has, not always a completely positive history, especially around 30 years ago with the war. And the question was, we don't want to make it all about the war, and we don't want, should we talk about it? Should we not? Kind of comes back to what Anssi was talking about with the curiosity. Our customers, will ask about it. They will want to know about it. And it's not that we, would ever as a business want to be promoting it. It's, obviously being here, we see that there's obviously so much more to offer. But the reality is that most customers from Australia or the UK or the US, unfortunately, it is probably what they know Bosnia for. Question.
Croatia had war as well almost the same time we had. I
Yep.
think that people are coming.
And the red
Then they come like here to see the third world country and it is a story that we are enhancing. And I would like to take the best.
I'll probably let one of the guys from the region
Well,
talk.
you can both, okay? I'll do that. All right, I'll talk generally, and Sonia can cover it from the Croatian side, I think. That's more fair. But when you look at the news, or 30 years ago, what was in the news most of the time? It was Bosnia, it was Sarajevo, it was the poster child. So that's probably one of the driving reasons why it's mentioned so much here. Internationally. But at the same time, Sonia will probably explain more. When I was leading tours also in Croatia, the questions were still there from all of our clients about the war, and it was not just Bosnia, it was Croatia, it was Serbia, it was Slovenia to a lesser extent. Maybe, I don't know, you had different experiences, but our clients, whenever they go into a country that was, in the recent history ravaged by war, they want to know. It's not a question. They're very educated. How to change this? That's another tricky thing. Yes. Here, from my perspective, we do a pretty good job when we bring our clients. There is a lot of history covered, but we also go to the beauties of Bosnia. All the beautiful lakes, all the beautiful skiing resorts, the Olympic Games. We explain everything, and the cooking, and the embroidery, and the coffee, and the tapestry. We package it all very nicely up, but history is part of this. So I don't think you'll ever get completely rid of telling that story. In a lot of our tours we actually had the discussion before, for FIT means private groups from external partners. We also still now get requests for tours that cover World War I. Like not a limit, not a small amount, quite a big amount. And that's, a big time ago. And they still want to hear about it. And they go to France, they go to Germany, they go to Austria, and they still talk about it. So I think it's just part of the culture, and it needs to be packaged correctly. Sonia, please.
Nothing. I just want to add. Pretty much what Chris said as well. So it's part of the history. You go to Poland, you're gonna visit Auschwitz most likely. If you go to Vietnam, you're gonna hear stories about the war, even though it was a long time ago. So it is part of the history. Here, it's still it's so visible on the streets, on the people, like everywhere. You cannot talk about it, but it doesn't have to be something bad. It's a really, I know it's a subjective thing, and everybody has their opinion on it. But that's the beauty of tourism, to try to kind of present your way, to try to be more objective, to try to tell your own story. It's all about storytelling and packaging. So when we bring our guests, travelers through Bosnia, there is a war story, of course, but we also do the war story in Croatia. For example, the trip that we are running now, one of our best-selling trips, goes from Budapest to Dubrovnik. We stop in Osijek in Croatia, we stop in Vukovar, there is a story around there. Then we go to Belgrade in Novi Sad, so there is a story there. Then we go to Sarajevo. So they actually hear story about, for example, ex-Yugoslavia from different point of views. And then what should make them, give them a, at least we hope, kind of more broader experience, and to make them their own opinion about what happened here, what's the effects, and so on. But it is all about personal experiences, as well as, of course, the objective facts. And on the coast as well. I mean, it's not like we don't talk about the war. I mean, now talking about Croatia, so it's part of it. But Bosnia is like amazing nature, amazing astronomy, and it's always part of the trip. So it's not like war. It can just be a positive addition, because it is what it attracts. Olympics, war, whatever. Yeah.
Just so you know how we package it, when we go to Belgrade, we have a local guide, which is a 1.50 meter high lady, chain smoking, with a voice like Barry White, and she tells her story from what Serbia went through, and she ties in local stories about how people went to get milk, or just daily life stories. When we come to Sarajevo, we have a guy here who is I don't know, I think he's on cocaine most of the time. I mean, it is, but he is full of energy. He is jumping up and down. He's a lovely guy, beautiful blue eyes, and the people. He is. I mean, most of the clients say that. True. Yes, true. And people love his, youth, his enthusiasm. He lived through it as a young boy, and it's another part of the story, and it fits together. And it doesn't talk about. Well, I mean, it mentions the atrocities, but that's not the main point. It's just about how people stepped together, how they held together, what they did to survive, and how life changed, and now everything is going, let's say, in the right direction. So it's not all about just talking about the war, but it's a hard job. I understand completely.
And just to add, I think it is what you guys have. It's where you do have stories to tell. It's where your family do have stories to tell, and of course, it's probably easier for me as an outsider to kind of be removed emotionally and be objective about it, but use it to your advantage. If that's what some tourists think of Bosnia, great. Okay, use it to your advantage, but then use the time that those tourists are here to then tell them the new Bosnia, tell them the things they had no idea of before. And that was certainly my experience of, I traveled with Intrepid to Israel and Palestine. And again, unfortunately, Bosnia does not have a monopoly on troubled past. There's plenty of parts around the world. And yeah, I admit it. One of the reasons I went to Israel and Palestine was to try to learn more about the situation there, because most of what I knew about it, unfortunately, was conflict. Actually, when I was there, it's very little of what I actually remember from the trip. It was mostly with a Palestinian guide, probably for 2/3 of the tour, and then 1/3 of the tour was with an Israeli guide. Of course, there were lots of questions. Of course, there were perspectives and opinions, and we want to try and give our customers that. But we also went to, first of all, I realized the situation was far more complex than I had ever even imagined. We went to a hippie art studio where, real kind of lefty people from both sides were kind of there trying to do their bit to try and, improve the situation. And then on the other hand, you meet all sorts of, really kind of religious people or people with really strong opinions still. And so, all we're saying is you probably will get customers coming to Bosnia with certain perspectives or ideas in mind of what they know of Bosnia, and use that to your advantage. Don't shy away from it. Be objective, put some personal stories in there, but then use the opportunity to show people what else Bosnia has to offer. I think it's a huge opportunity as well to try and change the minds of people, because ultimately that's what tourism has the power to do, is try and bridge gaps and try and bring people together.
Are we gonna make a break before we go into examples, or
Do you want
I think
if I start,
Carry on.
it's gonna last longer?
no, we should go through the
Yeah, I think go
section and
through.
then we do.
Okay. I'm going to talk a bit about examples, for example. So the majority of our presentation is kind of focused around those certs that you hear us mentioning, the twisting word. And it's pretty much the experience, the storytelling, and the people. So we've mentioned already lots of examples, but it is kind of a purpose-led experience that should be the guiding line, and it can be as we mentioned a few times, gastronomical like cooking lessons, so on. It can be community like women empowering. It can be environmental. Last of experience is one of our kind of proud moments of environmental effort, let's call it that way. You can it's I don't know if any of you have been to Lastovo. It's quite a remote island in Croatian, on the Croatian coast. It takes 5.5 hours by ferry, 4 hours by catamaran, so far out. Not many tourists, definitely not a mass tourist site. And we wanted to bring people there, but we didn't want to bring any kind of tourism there. We wanted to make it as sustainable as possible. So first, the World Wild Foundation, the WWF, the panda logo, yeah, if I'm quite sure most of you know of, they've started putting kind of sustainable itinerary there, and they have collected different local, it's called local clusters, so pretty much the local community. They've made several workshops, usually it's educational workshops, to tell them how they should make, same what we are doing pretty much here, how they should kind of focus their products, if they have products, if they don't have, maybe what would be a good way for them to kind of point them out in the right direction. Last of all, it's unspoiled, I mean, I'm gonna say paradise. It's like Mediterranean as it once was. So it's a marine protected area. It's a natural park. It's very, very beautiful. And as I said, not many people, you can go, not many people are visiting it. So that's why, as this is pretty much few points. If anybody is a diver, that's like the best spot to dive there. It's just amazing. And the biodiversity is great. So they have the WWF had several workshops there, and it was together all of those products, experiences, however you want to call it. It can be, now this is, if I put it, yeah, okay. It's from picking veggies. So pretty much they would wake up early in the morning and they would pick out potatoes. Sorry, not tomatoes, potatoes. It's hard work, but I mean, our customers actually love to get a hands-on. It's one thing is talking about everything. Another thing is what they are mentioning when they want to see where their dollar went, but they also want to feel like they are actually with their hands bringing something valuable, helping. It can be when they go on a walking tour, the local leader takes a trash bag, and while they walk, they clean. They just take the trash where they can. I mean, it doesn't have to be like a huge NGO project. It doesn't have to have a massive conservation effect, but just like those small things. Just take a trash bag with you wherever you walk, do something meaningful. They will love it because it does put like an extra plus meaning to their travel, not just kind of going there, spending the money. So this is one of the examples they have been doing. Chris was part of that. You want to?
Of course. So I was on that initial trip, and for lots of you, it's probably funny picking veggies. Like you have gardens, you have neighbors who do it, you see fields around you, but at least our clients come from Melbourne, Sydney, New York City, Chicago, London. There is no fields around there, or very little, and I would say at least 50% of our clients didn't even know that potatoes are growing in the earth. They thought they're growing on a plant above, and at least half of those never seen a tomato being picked from a plant. And it's funny for people living in this area here, and myself too, but that's a pure fact. So that's why experiences like that, for you, it's nothing. For them, it's like, wow, And it's, costs you almost nothing to organize something like this.
Okay, so how did Intrepid kind of come into this picture? We've made partnership with WWF, and we wanted to make these products. We wanted to bring them customers and to give more meaning and, of course, more money to them. So one of the activities that we have included in our trips is the fishing tourism experience. It has been part of our premium packages. It's a story of a family of fishermen. So it's a wife and a husband. And they are fishermen. They have been doing that all of their lives. And this is one of the activities that has direct environmental, conservational effect. Because instead of putting 2,000, 3,000 meters of nets, like fishing nets, and then pulling them out every day, they make just a demonstration. They put 200, 300 or even less meters of nets instead, just like a showcase to show the people that they go with them on their fishing boat. It's usually, as we said, our groups are small, so it's up to 12 people in this case. They go with them on their fishing boat, and they pull the nets. They usually catch something, sometimes nice stuff, sometimes smaller stuff, depends. But it is direct conservation effect because they do it often, and during the season, even it shows in the winter, those fishermen don't have to go fishing because the money they make just from fishing tourism is enough for them to support their family, and it's enough for them as income. So no need for extra fishing effort. The experience also includes, once they pull out the nets, the women makes fresh fish on the boat. They grill it, so it's like fish, salad, of course, wine, rakia. It's a necessity. And they usually go with the boat in one of the tunnels in Lastov. They still have lots of kind of underground tunnels. It's a good place for shade in the summer times. And that's where they have lunch, kind of relax. It's a leisure experience of 4 or 5 hours. And during all that time, they talk. Fisherman and his wife. They talk about conservation effect. They talk about to our customers about the local community. They talk about the island. They talk about sustainability, about marine protected area, about how they have the traditional way of fishing and how they're doing it now, and so on. So there is a huge educational effort there as well. One of the beauties regarding Intrepid travel is that we, after every trip, we encourage every single customer to write a feedback. The feedbacks are about accommodation, about activities, about local guides, about everything. They can put marks, grades, but they also do comments. We read every single one of them every time, and we change our itineraries according to it. So as Chris already mentioned, if a cooking class gets bad, if the feedbacks are getting worse and worse, we are gonna, I don't want to say interfere, but we are gonna first check what is the thing, if we can get it better, if it can improve. If not, we are gonna change it. We are changing accommodations, we are changing transportation vehicles, we are changing activities. So feedbacks are really, really important. And our customers see that because they know that their voice, their comments are valuable to us. It really does make a difference. So you do need to have a genuine product, not fake, not just selling something just to be sold or saying something just to be said. This way, they actually see that what they've said, we're walking the walk. We are actually doing the stuff we are saying. Yeah. Go.
Just wanted to tie this one in also back together with the work question that was before. I don't know how many of you know that, but Lastov, especially during the Second World War, was a military island, and those tunnels are old submarine tunnels for parking. So clients obviously ask about this. They ask about the war. but what they remember is the conservation effort, the fishing, the a cappella singing. So the war, it's there in the background, but the beautiful experience is something completely different. And that's where you can draw parallels also to the region here. I mean, instead of having beautiful islands, you have beautiful lakes, beautiful mountains. I mean, I'm sure there is a lot of things that can be done here in a similar manner.
You can. Okay.
Just to add one thing, I guess, from a product development and marketing standpoint. So Ante was talking about, experiences have to be replicable and scalable. And, ultimately, if one of your experiences includes something, or you tell us that it includes it and we write it on the website, we have to deliver on that to our customers. If there are things which you either can't guarantee every time, or there's something that means it's maybe not as reliable, or maybe you just want to keep it kind of as a surprise, that's great too. The singing is a good example. We don't talk about that on the website, but it's like an additional little surprise. Jewel, a little surprise when the experience actually happens. So you can, I guess, when you're trying to build what could be an activity into a broader or longer experience, have a think about, okay, what can I replicate every time? What do I know I can deliver time and time again? And what is maybe a little unreliable, or, if you've got a guide walking a particular way and, there's a little amazing, bar, but the guy running it is a little bit unreliable and you don't know whether he's going to open late or early or whatever. You don't necessarily have to include that every time, but don't tell us if you can't replicate it every time. Keep some things as surprises, and then if the customer is not expecting it and it's a nice surprise, then great. If they are expecting it and it doesn't happen, that's going to be a complaint. So just I guess have a think about what is definitely replicable every time and what is not, and keep things like the singing maybe as an additional surprise.
Okay, so pretty much what we have here is that WWF is providing sustainability principles, and we as Intrepid are bringing the customers. We want to make that, we actually did make that as a showcase. I went to Greece, for example, to talk to Greece fishermen there. And of course, they were skeptic. It is also a personal investment whenever you want to be part of tourism. If you want to make something like a more quality, let's say, product, you do need to invest at the beginning. So there needs to be some kind of faith in the product. But we brought our Croatian fishermen with us to show them and to tell them their own stories. So when you hear story mouth to mouth, when you see examples, it helps people to kind of invest in their own work, in their own product, in their own stories. And that's what we have tried to do with Lastovo as well. It's just a first step. We have several other projects that we are now working in cooperation as well as WWF. As another is Meet Network. We have made several itineraries now during pandemic. One of them is, for example, in Croatia on Kornati Islands, where we have involved. Also, Meet Network is an NGO that is also WWF is part of it, IUCN is part of it. It's a network of conservation NGOs, let's say. And we have involved part of their itineraries into our own itineraries. So as I said, pretty much to show local communities in Kornati. It's going to like a very small house, having a barbecue there as well, hearing the stories, making their own candles. It's a really nice experience. We have done same in Greece, in Crete. There are like guest houses in the middle of the mountains where we go, where we usually wouldn't be maybe able to bring our groups, but because of the local cooperation we have there on the island, we have managed to make that as well part of our trips. So pretty much all what we are trying to explain to you is to show you what we are looking for in the products, what we think is selling, what we think adds value. And then, of course, we are interested in your products, what you can give us, what you can present, because that is what we are looking for. We want quality, we want storytelling, we want impact, like environmental, community, whatever. You've heard us talk about this now for some time, and this is what we want to include, because at the end of this family trip, it's a family trip. It's a family trip around Bosnia. We are going to build another Bosnian trip, and we want your products, your ideas, and yes, that's pretty much why, one of the reasons why we are here as well. So we are showing you the best practices in designing them, developing, and pretty much positioning, because we can sell those trips. Our customers are interested in that. This is, I'm not going to repeat ourselves too much, because it's pretty much the same we've been talking about. Make it unique, make it available. It's all about local, avoiding crowds, avoiding mass tourism. Even if it's a really famous place, like they've mentioned Dubrovnik, maybe just put it from a different perspective. Maybe try to make it very personal with a story from like a local story of a local guy there. Introduce them to, like a hands-on experience, building something, making, picking up trash, whatever. Those are the things we look for, and those are the things we want to pretty much include in our trips. That gives great value for money, and it's quality. It's not luxury. It can be actually a free experience, like the views or hiking. It doesn't have to be expensive. It's just something that adds value. You want to check it?
And what Sonia is also saying, I mean, what we are not saying, yes, we are definitely interested in those products as a company, but it's not just for us. I mean, every single other company out there is looking right now for something very similar in their own ranges. Means whatever you're designing, as long as you stay in those frameworks, it's going to be interesting for them, because as we said at the beginning, right now, what people are into is no more, buying souvenirs or ticking off destinations. They want to tell their own story. They want to have experiences. And all of that, what we described right now, is exactly that, experiences, which they remember.
So, super simple question to start. So what do you think is more important, safety or quality, or to please the customer? From our perspective, the answer will be always safety. Safety comes first, because, I mean, yeah, for us, it's kind of a natural thing. All right, so when it comes to accommodation, practical things that we are looking for, we do need twin rooms. So if you're an accommodation supplier, or you are considering opening a hotel, make sure that you have twin beds with separate beds, because there are customers on group tours that travel together, but they do not know each other, and they're not a couple. So it causes a lot of issues when they arrive in a hotel and they have a double bed with mattresses together, two separate mattresses, but in one bed. So you wouldn't want to sleep in the same bed with strangers. Clearly, the customers don't want to do it either. If there are two people staying in a room, twin or double, provide 2 keys, because people might be doing different things in the afternoon, return to the hotel different times. For us, size of the property, of course, is very important, because we need to accommodate our groups, which is up to 12 or 16 people. So we look for minimum of 10 rooms. Cleanliness, as long as the hotel is clean, it's all good. Safety standards, when we sign contracts with our accommodation suppliers, there are certain standards you need to meet, which is emergency exits, signage, means to raise alarm, your staff needs to be trained, all these kind of things. Reliable Wi-Fi. Nowadays, it goes without saying, every time you come into a hotel, first question that you will get from a customer, do you have Wi-Fi? What's the Wi-Fi password? So it has to be available. If there can be a water kettle in the room, great, because a lot of, especially British customers, enjoy their cup of tea after they walk. So it's a great little bonus to have. The hotels we use have to be good standard, but we're not looking for luxury. So it doesn't have to be a 4-star hotel. Actually, we prefer not to have 4-star hotels. So as long as it's clean, comfortable, That's great. Locally owned family guest house. Story. It's all about story. Value for money. Think of your environmental policies. Towels don't need to be changed every day. There can be signage there should be signage in the room for saving resources, environmental policies, all these kind of things. You have to be a responsible business. You have to have all your licenses that you can operate, that you have insurance, all of these kind of things. And very essential for this region, the rooms are absolutely no smoking. Ideally, the whole building is no smoking, because the clients that come from US, UK, Australia, especially Australia, are absolutely anti-smoking. And it is a very, very big problem for us in this region, because we get a lot of complaints. So it's something to be conscious of. Activities. There are different type of activities, and Chris is going to go into more detail with technical, non-technical, and the safety standards and all these kind of things. But something broader to consider is the possible group sizes you can offer. Of course, it can be up to 50 people. It can be smaller groups, all of these kind of things. But for us, of course, it's very essential that we can deliver for the group size that we run trips for. The people that provide these activities should be always professional, always competent, and legally have all of the required licenses. If it's a activity that doesn't require a license, of course not. Cooking class, like, it's fine. But if it's technical activity like kayaking, rafting, whatever, mountain, any kind of things where there's safety standards, licenses need to be provided. English is, if we have a local tour leader who speaks the language, we can facilitate translation. But of course, fluent English is preferred, because then customer can interact with the person directly and it helps. Any venues used for providing the activity need to meet all of the fire safety standards, be clean, all of these kind of things. Safety briefings need to be given. Even for local guide, a walking tour, you need to think of basic things like, where are you going to go? How long is the activity going to take? Crossing the street, please look both ways. Customers from Australia, for example, look the wrong way. They don't notice. You need to give a basic summary of what is going to happen and how it's going to happen. For technical activities, there are equipment logs, maintenance logs, which Chris is going to mention. You need to have all kinds of procedures for evacuation routes and what is going to happen in case of emergency. Liability insurance, especially for technical activities. And when it comes to bigger groups, different standards. And if it's children, then it's even more. You have to have all kinds of risk assessments done before activities can take place. For transportation, this is important even if you are not providing transportation services, but let's say you provide a tour where transportation is included. Think about these things as well, and little details. Always the van has to have matching number of seats per number of passengers. So you can't expect people to sit, like 4 people to sit in a chair meant for 3 people. That's a big no. You can't do this. No extra chairs in aisles, these kind of things. It has to be fit the size of the group. Seatbelts, working seatbelts, all of the licenses registered to drive tourists, all the paperwork for maintenance, drivers need to be trained with all of the necessary licenses, of course, all of these kind of things. Speed limit needs to be followed, local regulations. And a very big no using mobile phones while driving. It's absolutely yes, a no. Our customers do notice, and the moment they see a driver touching their phone, they start speaking up, and our tour leaders, there are occasions where our tour leaders need to get into uncomfortable situations discussing these problems with the bus drivers. You can continue.
Okay, so the problems we actually face on our trips, not just Balkans, but all of Europe and most of the world. So we're talking about accommodation. Poor cleanliness means mold in the bathrooms, dirty windows, bed sheets full of hair under the bed is almost never cleaned. Hot water, especially in properties where we go into regions which are not as touristy. I mean, we try to get into destinations not touristy for a reason, but the problem with those hotels or accommodations is they don't use the water heaters every day. Means clients come, it hasn't been used for a week, and there is no hot water because the system is broken. No emergency exits. It's not a problem if it's the first or the ground floor because you can climb out the window, but everything else needs to be at least properly signed. And there needs to be a way of raising the alarm. So either it's fire alarms or it's a big giant bell like we have in the mountains in, let's say, Morocco. Well, this region specifically, I mean, the Balkans in general, room smell of cigarette smoke. Some clients actually refuse to go into the rooms if they smell of cigarettes. It's not just ours, but especially North America and Australia, it's an allergic reaction, simple as that. No stuff on reception, especially homestays, which is fine as long as there is a number where we can reach them or the clients can reach them if they want to. Transportation, we had, let's say, in one of the Balkan countries, we had situations where there was, I'm old Furgon, so basically Albania, minibus for 12 people, and there was a lot of locals on it, and our clients had to sit on a plastic chair in the middle aisle. Obviously no seat belt. Let's just put it this way: the tour leader who allowed this is no longer working for us. Speeding, I know, I'm also coming from Slovenia, so the speed limit is, it's an approximation. You don't really have to go by it. But our clients, as soon as you hit 120, they're going to watch it. They're going to watch the needle, and if it goes above it, we're going to hear complaints. Drivers talking on mobile phone, if they have a headset, absolutely no problem. If they start fidgeting with the phone during the drive, even for navigation, it's a problem. And we actually did drop suppliers because of that. First off, it's a safety issue. I don't know how many of you realize that. But second off, clients absolutely refuse to go on trips with us anymore just because of this. Transportation smells of cigarette smoke. Well, same as accommodation. They're allergic. I mean, we take the Balkan Express from, Sarajevo down to, where do we go?
From Sarajevo to Mostar?
Yeah, Sarajevo. No, we take a bus anyway. To Nikšić. So from Sarajevo to Nikšić, and the Balkan Express bus, basically, it's non-smoking, but which means that the driver has a window open while he smokes. Clients obviously don't love it, but it's an experience. So you tell a story about it, and they're all fine with it for that 6-hour duration. Yes, not clean. The buses, especially if they're private transportation, they should be clean. Means at least a garbage bag somewhere where the clients can throw stuff in, and no visible signs of dirt anywhere. And a big one, luggage space. If we come from Australia, clients which book our tours have a recommendation. Take a 8 kilo or 10 kilo bag for a 10-day trip, which is a small wheelie bag. For 12 passengers, perfectly fine. You give the same instructions in the US, you end up with 2 huge luggage cases per person, and you won't have enough luggage space. Means what most providers then do, they just cram them in the middle row, which obviously is not safe and not acceptable. Activities. Guides have no experience. We had this in Iceland, where it's one of the most regulated countries in the world, and we do glacier hiking there. And there is a lot of foreign help. Obviously, they import a lot of people from Poland, Lithuania, also the Balkans. And on a glacier hike where you need to know how to put on crampons, there is crevices, you can fall 30 meters deep, and they put on just, whoever they have around to do this without any safety briefing, anything. Not acceptable. Equipment is in poor shape. Again, we do lots of hiking, lots of biking, and sometimes we get bikes where the brakes don't work, or the ropes for any more significant hiking are very frailed. So you need to have, as a company, as an activity provider company, what we look for is, first off, liability insurance. Liability insurance is a must. Having all the licenses to operate in the country you are. So it has to be just your country, it doesn't have to be international like UK or US. You need to have equipment logs where you can log in how long equipment has been in use, who has checked it out, who has checked it in. You need to have emergency routes. So in case something happens, this is the plan. I need to call this number. I need to do this. That's the exit point. You need to have staff training. So whoever is on your team, especially for, let's say, rafting, serious mountain biking, rock climbing, you need to have obviously trained staff, and there needs to be trainings at least every year or every second years to refresh their knowledge, including first aid kits. For example, I have a first aid kit, first aid certificate, which I made, I don't know, 25 years ago or 20 years ago. It's still valid. For activities like that, you need to refresh the first aid certificate every 2 years in written form. And that's regardless of the government specifications. So that is a requirement, not just for us, but for any major tour operator. Poor safety briefing. So before any activity, we expect the local guides or our tour leaders in this case to give a safety briefing. Means you go on a hike through Sarajevo, you explain to them, so guys, you're from Australia, look, instead of looking left, you look right for the cars to come. Make sure you have enough water with you. Make sure you put on sunscreen. I'm not saying it's in Sarajevo, but if you're in an area that's a little bit more dangerous, make sure you don't take any belongings with you. Leave your passports in the hotel safe. Things like that. You can tip the restaurants, or the water is drinkable. That's a safety briefing, and it needs to be done. Animal welfare. So if we go out, I think the most we do with animals here is horse riding. So the animals need to be in good shape. Basically, they need to be taken care of. Otherwise, we are not cooperating with the suppliers. We're also one of, I think, the first tour operator worldwide that banned elephant rides in the world, just because of the animal welfare aspects. And okay, horses are not exactly animals, but still equally important.
I just want to add, want to add an example. For example, in Croatia, we had an activity where we went to a local farm and had lunch there. But the animals that the farmer had, some of the customers realized that they were not treated well, that they were skinny, that had some infection and so on. So it doesn't have to actually be that you are doing an activity with the animal, but in case we get complaints that you are actually not treating the animals even though it's his own farm, we got complaints. We actually did change the supplier at the end, just saying it can be those things as well.
On activities like kayaking and rafting, or even cycling, we require scouts and sweep, which means basically a guide in front who leads the way, and a guide at the back who can actually make sure that all the clients are still, there. Life jackets on boats, so that's all water sports, not just on the open ocean. And cooking classes, just as an example. No specific requirements are required in this case, but you need to have at least good hygiene. So in terms of COVID, before clients start cooking, there should be something to disinfect their hands. They should be wearing masks if it's required by the government. Food should be individually served so that people feel safe, especially when they're coming from abroad. So for activities, the way we do it, and also a lot of other suppliers, is technical and non-technical. To put it simply, technical is anywhere where you need specialized equipment or knowledge. Non-technical is what almost everybody can do without any prior specific knowledge. Regardless of the activity, the local standards need to be followed. So we're talking about technical activities would be those that require specialist technical formal training. They require special skills, can usually not be done by all passengers. They're not often included on itineraries in our case, because it just brings an extra risk. And our clients, although we're calling ourselves adventure company, it's not extreme adventure company. So paragliding and abseiling and canyoning is on the dangerous side, and especially when young people come over, they tend to do everything that's on offer and they don't realize the risk associated. So also technical activities are often led by specialist guides, and examples would be, I'll go here. So you have rock climbing, you have quad biking, you have horse riding, if it's a bit more difficult, surfing, skydiving, kite surfing, zip lining, rock climbing. Those are all activities which we usually do not promote specifically on our trips. On the FIT side, where we build for white labels, they can do whatever they want. I mean, we have kite surfing lessons in Morocco for a lot of our clients, but on our existing itineraries, we don't have it. One thing that's absolutely banned is motorbikes and scooters. And one of the reasons is not so obvious. So when we get clients from US or Australia or even UK coming here, all of them have to have insurance. But what most of them don't realize is that the insurances they take on their level, on the basic level, or even on the mid level, do not have motorbikes or scooters as insurance covered. Means you need to specifically pay extra amount of money to cover motorbikes and scooters, and most of them don't do it. So if anything happens, we have a client. Let's say we had it in the past in Greece. They went quad biking. Obviously, they did some stupid things. Ended up in the hospital and insurance didn't cover it. They didn't have any family members who can cover it, and we as a tour operator obviously have a liability, not insurance but responsibility, so we had to cover for everything for them. And it's not, first off, it's not good for the business, and second off, it's just too dangerous. And most of the people, when they go on holidays, they switch off their safety switch in their own country. They would never do something stupid. When they go on holidays, it's like, I'm safe, I'm on holidays, nothing's gonna happen to me, and that's when it happens. So non-technical activities, they do not require specialist formal training, except knowing how to ride a bike in most cases. Do not require special skills, can be done by all passengers regardless of age, and are often included on the itineraries and led by leaders. So good examples of that would be, mountain biking, hiking, what else do we have? Swimming, snorkeling, to some extent, horse riding, cooking. Safe activities, basically. And walking tours, yes. The way we do risk assessment is we don't just do it for an activity. Before we even design the trip, we have a global overview program to see if the destinations is safe. So, what's the level of, can you drink the water? What's the, pickpocket situation? What's the situation on the streets? Is traffic safe? Medical care, are there enough hospitals? Especially now with COVID, before we opened destinations, we actually had to go and look how many hospitals are there. Are they actually equipped to cover COVID cases? Which insurances are accepted? Do you need vaccination? All of that stuff. And we do it first on a trip level, and then we go down to a risk assessment. In cases like the glacier walking in Iceland, which is a technical activity, the questionnaire is about, 80 questions at least, which you as a supplier need to fill out. The main one is having liability insurance. Everything else is, pretty much common sense. It's not really tricky if you're dedicated to have a safe trip. For a hiking trip, it takes us 5 minutes to finish it out, because you just need to know that the trails are marked, that the emergency services are available, and the paths are safe. But again, it depends on the activity. And then we do this risk activity every 2 years, just to make sure the supplier still has liability insurance. And we do it dynamically. So we call it dynamic risk assessment when the leaders are on the ground, just to make sure if there is any changes. Goes equally for hotels. We start with a great hotel, and then over the years it falls into disrepair, and leaders report it, like there is unsafe gas installations, the fire extinguishers are not refilled, there is no fire alarms, or the batteries are taken out, the doors for emergency exits are always closed. We go in touch with the supplier and say, you need to fix those things for our clients to continue to come, and there is a period to sort it. If it doesn't happen, well, we start looking for somebody else, because we can't put our clients in danger. It's our responsibility. In general, what do we have that? So in general, we have the motto that you always have to provide a safety briefing before any activity, which should include information on specific dangers. First aid kit needs to be carried at all times by our leaders. And if you have guides which go on a specific activity, there needs to be first aid kit available at all times. And another big thing that emerged over the last 5 years is around customers with food allergies. I mean, you have celiac intolerant, gluten intolerant, milk intolerant, cookies intolerant, you name it, you got it. But a lot of those clients actually really have those allergies, and something happens, it's going to be your responsibility at the end of the day. So in essence, never allow your passengers to do something unsafe just to keep them happy. You can have the client have the best experience of their life for 7 days. On day 8, he's gonna break a leg or get something more serious. Nobody's gonna remember that he had a great time on the trip. They're gonna remember that it's your responsibility that he broke his leg, be it true or not. It doesn't matter. They're still going to blame you. So the best option you have for clients is to give them a safe trip free from accident or injury, which I hope explains why we have so many rules around technical and non-technical activities. And at the end of the day, if a client pays you to do a specific activity, it is your duty of care to do it. Means if anything goes wrong, those clients are going to come back hard on you specifically as a company. So the more safeguards you have in place, the easier it is for you to manage it later. Any questions so far? Okay. All right.
Sure. Okay. So yeah, we've gone through obviously a lot of kind of experiential product design, a lot on health and safety. I wanted to kind of touch on kind of the market opportunity just for probably the next 15 minutes or so to give you guys plenty of time for questions at the end. Yeah, next slide, please.
Sorry.
I guess what makes us relatively unique is that we have a relatively even split between customers coming to us directly. So about 60% of our customers come to Intrepid Travel directly, either through what they've seen on social media or what they've seen on the website or word of mouth or whatever. And then about 40% of our revenue comes through travel agents as well. So, I guess that's something that we're comfortable with. We do have relationships with either online travel agents or kind of your traditional kind of bricks and mortar high street travel agents as well, and indeed wholesale groups. And so that, by the way, is talking about customers booking on an Intrepid travel tour, which, as you've learned, is kind of mostly operated or almost all operated by Intrepid DMC. For external clients, again, it really does vary on where they get their customers from. But, a customer joining one of our clients' tours would not know that they were not being taken around Bosnia, for example, by Intrepid DMC. It's completely white label. They would imagine that they are traveling with whatever company they've actually booked with. And for all of those clients, whether it's for Intrepid Travel or whether it's for one of our external partners, we can do both group travel and FIT. And there are positives and negatives to both. I think with group travel, we can, in some destinations especially, guarantee or almost guarantee a certain amount of customers coming through. If the guys put together a tour that, goes from Zagreb to, Sarajevo, and it's selling well, then we will, book or block allotments for one of those tours every week for 4 or 5 months of the high season. So that you'll be getting somewhere usually between 9 and 12 passengers on those. With FIT, it's obviously more ad hoc. So we get customers coming to either Intrepid Travel directly or through external partners wanting for us to develop something that is unique for them. It may actually not be that unique. I think Chris mentioned it actually. If customers have seen something on the website, they've seen a Bosnia tour on the website and actually they want to do that exact same tour, but either the dates don't work for them that exist, or they want to do it themselves. They want to go with a couple of friends instead of traveling with strangers for a week. Then that can be an example of a tailor-made group tour. And then FIT, kind of your typical FIT, is more your much smaller groups, 1, 2, 3, 4 passengers, really wanting to design a bespoke itinerary that goes wherever they want and for whatever type of travel. Good.
Just to kind of add on to this, Tom has talking about us as Intrepid and our way to customer, but it's the same for you guys. So you have to decide if you want to focus on FIT and sell directly or try to get to the market directly, which is much more it's much more difficult than going through an agency or a tour operator. And if you want to focus on group business, or as in the document, like as in this presentation it says, so FIT, you might be able to reach the traveler that comes to Sarajevo, let's say for a long weekend, and you have a experience, you might be able to reach the customer more easily, but the margin you will make on this 1 or 2 people will be much smaller when you're getting a group of 10 or 20 people. So you need to you need to think of what brings you more money and what is more sustainable for you as a business, and then decide how you're going to go about this. Actually,
I just wanted to add, if anybody actually understands what, especially with accommodation, what the difference is between FIT and group tours. I mean, what's the correlation between that? So for group tours, we are looking for release periods up to 2-3 weeks on average. Means
a month.
Okay, let's say up to a month. We can tell you up a month out that group is not coming because I don't know, in the COVID situation, it's what it is. We can't help it. And obviously, we're looking for no cancellation fees in this case. FIT, we get requests. It's not just 1 passenger, 2 passengers. We're working with with the largest UK operator of FIT business, which is Trailfinders. And those guys, when they come, they're requesting, we're talking about 70 rooms for a conference, whatever it is. But those 70 rooms might sound very nice to you, but what they also request is a release period of 24 hours. Yes, I know. Sometimes it's ridiculous, but it's the difference between making let's say a killing on commission or markup versus not getting the business. And I know 24 hours, it's not realistic even for us because it's too much danger. But the shorter you can keep those release periods, the more chance there are that businesses, especially tour operators with lots of volume, are going to come to you.
I just want to add one thing. So also regarding mostly, let's say, accommodation, price range, like for FITs, like, so you can possibly maybe charge more. For groups, there will be negotiation because it is the volume that we are bringing to your facility or whatever. But it is also like with groups, majority of our trips are we fill in the pre and post season. So it's not like, for example, July and August is like low season for us. June, May, September, October, that's when we actually fill out more. And September is like our highest in Europe now, I'm saying, is the peak of our season. So it for our suppliers, it is very useful. As Tom mentioned, it always has its bonuses, it has its positive, and it has its negative side. So the positive is we can fill pre and post season, but it's an allotment basis, which means you do have to have like 10 rooms available. And then 30 days before each trip, we tell you how many rooms of those 10 we actually do need, how many passengers we will have on each trip. Just to kind of make it more clear, sorry.
Next slide, please. So Ansi talked a little bit about our customers earlier, and I guess I want to go into a little more detail. Obviously, I'm talking about Intrepid travel customers here, but hopefully it gives you guys an insight into a very quickly growing segment of the customer in especially English-speaking markets. We've seen a huge decrease in the amount of people wanting to kind of go on 50-person coach tours, for example. That's where a lot of customers are coming to Intrepid from. And so, we say that customers are defined by attitude rather than age. And I guess what that, it is true. But at the same time, of course, there are demographics that are more or less likely to travel on our tours. And so typically, as you can see there, the average age is 44. However, when you actually look at a graph of our customers, you'd see probably 25 to 35 as one peak. Then, people go away, have kids, have less disposable income. Obviously for our family tours, that's probably when they're most likely to travel on our family tours, is after about 35. And then probably from about 55 plus. So it's actually our largest or most quickly growing segment of our customers is 55 plus. kids have left home, got more disposable income, are starting to think about, where they always wanted to go that they've never had the opportunity to go to. And you would be surprised actually at the ages of some of our customers, even doing really active things, trekking the Inca Trail in Peru. We regularly get people in their 70s, people in their 80s even, doing these, really quite active tours. Of course, it's not always the case. But then, just to give you an idea, it's that 25 to 35 and then 55 plus, it starts to increase a lot. And actually, especially being a group tour travel provider and a company that is kind of regarded as a very safe company to go with, I guess it gives that reassurance of customers to know that they're going to travel with somebody that has a good reputation, is reputable, but still has a focus on delivering authentic experiences with adventure. And like I said at the beginning, adventure can be cultural, it can be gastronomic, it doesn't always have to be something extreme sports, which I think is probably what most people think of as your kind of classic adventure travel. As you can see there, 65% female, 35% male. Even when males travel, it tends to be the females that are the decision makers on where they travel, on which particular tour, on which level of comfort, whether it's basics, original, comfort, or premium. And the average age, actually, it does vary. It's a spread, of course, but also it varies by where those customers are coming from. So typically, customers coming from the UK or North America, the average age actually there is about 37 or 38. And then Australians are kind of towards late 40s. And that's predominantly because Australia was where we were established, and we've had kind of customers traveling with us throughout the years. I think, one thing I learned from these guys actually the other day was just around in this region specifically, especially on more of our cultural tours, the customers are a little bit older. They've probably traveled with us to maybe more risky destinations, South America or Vietnam or somewhere, but actually then, Europe is seen as somewhere that is a bit more safe, and, somewhere to travel to maybe a little bit later on. But actually that's probably also changing, I think, over the years. And actually as a business, we start to get more customers from Europe and North America. There's a couple of points here. I'm just really conscious of leaving enough time for you guys to ask any questions. So a lot of this is kind of repetition, I think. So I think we can just skip this.
But I also think that this applies for customer nowadays in general, not only Intrepid. The fact that they're time poor, that they want to be responsible, that they are conscious, that they are sociable, they want to meet people. We believe that it's a current trend that we see with people coming, traveling with us right now.
Okay, and then just wanted to touch on this. So again, these are broader trends than just the Intrepid travel brand. But as we've said, we're not here today to tie you into any kind of exclusive agreements or anything like that. Of course, if we can work with you, great. If we can deliver partnerships here and give our customers that what you guys can bring to it, which is that local knowledge, then amazing. But also there are plenty of other tour operators out there, and obviously for you guys, you need to be spreading your nets wider to try and develop relationships with either travel agents or other tour operators. So these are just five trends that we've identified through a lot of research. So the first of those is customers want to collect experiences, not things. I think that will be especially relevant, once tourism starts to recover a little more after COVID. People have been in their house buying things that they needed to fill their house with because they couldn't go out and do more experiences, to do more things. But obviously that will be a lot of pent-up demand of wanting to get back to that. Purpose, again, you've heard about it a lot, but in general, customers are wanting to have more of a positive impact, and especially when it comes to keeping cultures and traditions alive. You guys have access to so many unique individuals, friends, neighbors, colleagues that have got a story to tell, and for our customers, they want to see that as it is. They don't want to change that. For our customers, that's really valuable, and so being able to make a positive difference where they travel, whether that's to people or to the environment, is obviously something that is important. Digital acceleration. I mean, Ansi mentioned it with the Wi-Fi, but it's relevant for all parts of the research process, the booking process, the giving feedback afterwards, the keeping in contact with either tour operators or DMCs like ourselves, or you guys as activity providers. Obviously, whether you like it or not, everybody is probably going to be on Instagram looking at your Instagram page if you've got one, or your website to get more information. And obviously for you guys as well, that's a way of reaching huge amounts of people without necessarily having to travel to travel shows or fairs or come to things like this, which hopefully you found useful. But social media does have huge benefits to be able to accelerate you reaching out to customers and also growing your own brands. We as an operator, of course, we want to bring customers and we want to support wherever we can. But also we're not trying to kind of own you guys or own suppliers. We want you guys to have your own presence and have a good reputation yourselves. Fourth, trust, value, safety. I think, again, especially relevant in a kind of COVID environment. There is going to be no post-COVID, unfortunately. We're going to be stuck with it forever. So sorry to be depressing. Sorry.
Yeah, just look at the hotel. I think the Marriott here in Banja Luka and everywhere in the country actually has the Safe Travels logo on the doors, which is very widely recognized also by the travelers. So it's not extremely hard to get that certification if you have proper procedures in place. But when clients look at the offer, they're going to look at this logo and, yep, we're going to go with those guys just because of that, even if they're more expensive. So that's what we were talking before about B Corp certification, green certification, whatever it is. You need to have a recognizable brand, and you need to walk the walk, not just have it and not doing anything about it. But clients will pay attention and book you likelier than the next one over who doesn't have it.
And last thing, just wanted to touch on, we haven't really talked about this too much, or in fact at all, I don't think, in terms of customers are more likely to want to travel closer to home. I think it's probably, this will vary across the globe, but certainly what we have seen, definitely because of COVID, but also afterwards, there is a lot more consciousness about flying to far-flung destinations and carbon footprint. And so if there are ways that customers can travel more locally, and when I say locally, I mean Europe, for example, as a continent rather than necessarily the Balkans as an area, we have started to see that as a bit of a trend. Obviously, we're a global tour operator that has made our reputation and plenty of profit over the years by taking people to Vietnam and Peru and Jordan and far-flung places, and of course as a business we wouldn't want that to totally change, but at the same time we have to be mindful of customer trends that are outside of our control, environmental factors. And so for us it has been really important to develop ranges of products that are relevant within a particular source market. So for example, now we have far more UK products than we've ever had before for any UK customers that either for environmental reasons or for just not feeling comfortable yet to travel on planes or want to be too far away from home in case border restrictions change, to travel in the UK. Same for Australia, same for the United States. And I think the huge advantage that you guys have actually is that you are in mainland Europe, and for customers to be able to travel, okay, it's probably a bit of a longer journey, but they can travel from Italy, from Germany, from France, from Spain, if they really wanted to. If they're really, environmentally conscious, you can do it by train. If it's more just the fact that they want to have a more control over their trip, maybe they would drive. So, I think that's something that we have started to see as a bit of a trend, and I think we'll continue with the fact that, climate change needs, we all have a responsibility to take a bit more responsibility of how we travel and the impact that has. And again, that's why it's important to have a diverse range of customers. If all of our customers are UK based or Australia based or the US based, then ultimately, if it does become more of a trend, or if it does become more expensive to fly across the world, then again, we need to make sure we've got enough customers closer to home, and you guys are in a great position for that, actually. That's it, I think, in terms of from our side, but please, we've left 20 minutes for questions. Please feel free to ask anything you would like to know.
Okay, I have one question. You are only selling tours, like holiday trips in English language? Yeah.
For Intrepid, yes, because our customer is English speaker.
Do you plan to grow?
We do run trips for some other brands, but also majority is English speaking market. We have a partnership as a DMC, partnership with a Dutch brand. Occasionally we will run the trips in Dutch, but it's very small part of our business at the moment. In other parts of the world, not in Europe, maybe a little bit more, but yeah, it's not necessarily our main market yet.
Okay, thank you.
We also tried it in German for our German clients, but it turned out that basically all of the clients who came here, we specifically put on a German tour leader, and they all spoke English. Same with Dutch. They come and we put on a Dutch leader just, to have somebody there, and they all spoke English. So in the end, it was like most people who book those tours are usually English speaking, and they are in that environment. So it's actually a very huge investment to cater for something that doesn't even materialize at the end for now. But we're working also, as Ante said, for the French market right now. And, if the demand will be there, especially as, China opens up more and we see more clients, we actually did work with Chinese operators and had Chinese tour leaders on our trips, but the volume needs to come. Otherwise, it's just doesn't make sense for us.
Yes, actually, projects that are potential and not finished yet, or just finished projects? Well, okay, thank you.
Also, in case as you saw a little bit initially, at least from Tom, we also have our Intrepid Foundation, where we support NGOs, or we support gender equality projects, animal welfare projects. We are always looking for one, and unfortunately in Europe we don't have a single one. We have it in Morocco, we had it in Russia, we have it in Asia, but in Europe we don't have anything. So if anybody has any interesting projects where we could work, and it's good if the group can visit, but definitely we don't want to disrupt any schoolwork or anything like that, please get in touch with me. I would love to hear about it.
Hello. Okay, I have a question. If you can just give me an example, for example, the experience that you mentioned in Lastovo. What I was looking at Bosnia and all the possible experiences here, the level of English language speaking in the country is not very high, particularly in rural areas and in remote areas, and particularly these really, really, let's say, unique experiences. How do you sort that out? Do you have a local translator, and does that take away anything from the experience? I mean, I saw in Lastovo a lovely fisherman and everything, but I'm imagining he doesn't speak.
Well, he started with "Hi, hello, my name is Ivica." That's pretty much where he started. Like he had very basic English, but it's amazing what one season with tourists can do. I mean, we did wrote him a text actually of the basic kind of bullet points, what he is supposed to say, what he should mention, and so on. He learned it. He's still not totally fluent in English, but he's getting there. That's one point. We do still have activities and suppliers where they don't speak English. In Greece, we come visit Lucumia workshop. The lady is like only in Greek, that's it. But our leaders are there as buffer, as translators, as whatever. So all of our leaders, we try wherever we travel to get local leaders, meaning, okay, Balkans, it's a complicated place. You cannot be like local everywhere. If you have a trip running through Bosnia, Serbia, Croatia, Slovenia, you cannot be like totally local in every place, but it's pretty much the same language. So if our leader, we will have a leader that speaks the local language, so he will always be there to facilitate. It's pretty much on majority of our trips. There's always our leader that is there to help. So it doesn't have to be, especially rural places, homestays, like we do those activities. Suppliers don't have to be fluent in English. That's why we have our leaders, and we can always manage. It's
actually one of the most interesting stories when you have an Australian coming to, let's say, where we stayed here to Sarajevo. The lady didn't speak English, almost nothing, and the client trying to explain in his, Australian English to the lady who speaks only, basically Bosnian, that he wants just a little bit milk for his coffee, and she brings him from cheese to dishwashing towels to everything. So it's, it's a story afterwards for them.
I think also that, we try and use local leaders wherever we can, but also for us, it's important that continuity. The leader spends a lot of time with the group. And so if we do have a tour which goes through 4 countries, we purposely don't change the leader in every country, because it's, he spends all this time getting to know the group, understanding what they like, what they don't like. So we maintain that. But that's what makes it even more important to have that local knowledge and local experience that we get from our local suppliers or activity providers, because they then are the people that can really offer something unique and local, whereas our guides are amazing. But like Sonia said, they, if somebody is from Croatia, they don't necessarily know all of the details of the region. So it's actually really valuable for us to have, local guides wherever we can.
Any further questions? All right, we'll still be here for another 5-10 minutes. So if anybody wants to just, ask something specific, please do so. But I hope it was very useful for you. And yeah, any questions, you can reach us on those details. And we hope working with you, all of you or most of you, in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.